Hi, I'm Gustavo Zayas. I'm the Archdiocesan Music Director for the Archdiocese of Miami. Welcome to my office. Welcome to my channel. Today I'd like to talk to you about sacred music. I get questions about sacred music from priests, deacons, seminarians, and laity, including other music directors. And I think a few videos on the topic would be very beneficial. My content in this channel will be intended for those involved in the direct planning and selection of repertoire and the rehearsal of choirs and the actual performance of music. So music directors, I'll be primarily speaking to you. I have two goals with this channel. One, to provide assistance to those who want to broaden their understanding of the purpose of music ministry. And two, to bridge the gap between the mind of the church regarding sacred music and the average music minister's approach to music making. I'm constantly learning, as I'm sure you are. So I hope these videos will help you on your journey. These videos might also prove useful to pastors who have a lot of control in shaping the musical direction of their parishes. So feel free to share. Now, sacred music can be a highly sophisticated and complicated topic. It doesn't need to be. Actually, I believe that sacred music is frequently misunderstood and it can be taught much more effectively. In my experience, the folks who really understand and appreciate sacred music have really put in the time and the effort to learn about it, to study it, even to learn to do it. Sacred music can actually be quite simple. So in these videos, I'm going to try to keep the ideas somewhat limited, so you can take the time to really think about them and understand them. I'm also going to try to avoid using some of the more sophisticated lingo or technical jargon where I can avoid it, that can sometimes turn people off of sacred music. I'll provide links to wherever I think they're appropriate, and I'm going to try to keep these videos relatively short if possible. Some people get it. Some people, it takes a little bit of time for them to get it. And I want you to get it. So please bear with me as I work to improve my channel. I'm a new YouTube content creator, so some feedback will be very beneficial, and I'll appreciate that. So let's keep it simple by starting with the 5 questions of sacred music. Who, what, when, where, and why. We'll do each one in rounds. Let's begin with a round of why. Why do we sing sacred music? The answer to this one is pretty simple. We don't need to make this answer up. It already exists. The church stated officially in the year 1903 that the purpose of sacred music is the glorification of God and the sanctification and edification of the faithful. This came from a document, a motu proprio, by Pope St. Pius X, where he talked about specifically sacred music. The title of that document, known as a motu proprio, is Tra le sollecitudini, and I'll put the title in the description. That's Italian. I'll do a separate presentation on that Pope and on that particular document at a later date, but I highly recommend that you read Tra le sollecitudini. As a music director, it's very important. Okay, now the original was in Italian, written in Italian, but of course it was translated very quickly into Latin, the official language of the Catholic Church. And then of course into other languages, one of those being English, and you can find that document on the Vatican.va website, as well as other documents on sacred music and other parts of the liturgy, as well as Pope's homilies and addresses. It's a very useful website. Now, that particular document was quoted several times by subsequent popes or popes that came after Pius X to use as their basis for their judgments and pronouncements on sacred music, most notably Pius XII in the 50s. Finally, parts of that particular document were incorporated into the Sacred Constitution on the Liturgy, which came out of the Second Vatican Council in 1963. And the language is very similar, but they change a little bit and maybe simplify it some. So the purpose of sacred music from the Constitution of the Sacred Liturgy states that the purpose of sacred music is the glory of God and the sanctification of the faithful. So there's a slight difference in the way the words were formed. Not glorification, but glory. And rather than sanctification and edification, it's just sanctification. Again, we can talk about that later. It was restated again in the instructions that came out and the commentaries that came out after the Second Vatican Council on sacred music. And it was then said or paraphrased by at least one other pope in the last 20 years, and it's been included in other official church documents up to today. So when someone asks you why you sing sacred music, you can reply, for the glory of God and the sanctification of the faithful. That takes care of the why of sacred music. Now, let's talk a little bit about the documents. Most, if not all, of the church's documents on sacred music can be found on the Vatican website. But I find that particular website a little bit difficult to navigate. So you may have better luck doing a Google search for sacred music documents, and doing so will probably take you to a handful of the usual websites that host documents on sacred music. There really aren't that many, so you'll get probably the same. I'll list a few of the ones that I know down in the description also. I'm going to say it again. I recommend that you read Tra le sollecitudini. Many documents that come after it refer back to it, so it's good to have the source. Now, as a music director, I've found several websites to be valuable in guiding my understanding of the church's teaching on sacred music. But there is a resource which I think has been much more valuable. It's a book. Yes, a book. This book. This is Papal Legislation on Sacred Music, 95 AD to 1977 AD. So it's a little bit dated, but it has most of what you'll ever need to know about sacred music. Now, this book is so important, I consider it as necessary reading for all music directors in the Catholic Church, period. Doesn't matter the language, doesn't matter the community, you need to read this book, in my opinion. Now, if you want to look for this book, I'll also provide links below, because I looked for this on Amazon just to provide a link, and the prices that I found on Amazon and some of the other more common websites or retailers of books are really expensive. I don't know how or why they reach those prices, but I didn't pay some of the prices you'll find on Amazon for this book. So I did manage to find a couple of links where they're much more reasonable in what they're charging, and I'm going to put those in the description as well. So check out those websites if you want a reasonable price for books like this. So just doing a wrap up. So today you learned about my channel, about what I plan to do here. You learned a little bit about why we sing sacred music, and you got some recommended reading material and some links to websites for you to explore. So if you found this presentation useful, please like, subscribe, and share. And also, once the pandemic has ended, consider visiting the Cathedral of St. Mary. That's where I direct music. If you happen to be in Miami, Florida, I'll provide some information for the Cathedral of St. Mary down below as well. Thank you for listening, and until next time, this is your sacred music guy telling you, keep it sacred.